Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. The Outdoor Adventure Series celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. We continue celebrating the National Marine Sanctuary's 50th year of ocean conservation and stewardship. The National Marine Sanctuary System is made up of 15 marine protected areas. Now, our guest today on the Outdoor Adventure Series is Tane Casserley, Research, Resource Protection, and Permitting Coordinator at the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary and Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary. Tane is responsible for the development of programs to address commercial and recreational uses in and around the sanctuaries. Tane, it's a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. That was quite a mouthful you had to say about me, so I appreciate the kudos. Thank you.
Oh my God. Sometimes I wonder, like, I should just introduce you and let you kind of deliver all of it, but sometimes it's hard to teach a new dog, old dog, new tricks. I think that's what it is. But, and I have to share, as I was prepping for the podcast today, and I was out on the websites, especially for the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary, I felt like I was back in school because whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, we all learned about the Monitor and the Merrimack
Right.
during the Civil War, or prior to the onset of the Civil War. And so again, I have a feeling I'm going to be asking you lots of questions about the historical nature of the sanctuary and this iconic ship. And so again, thank you. And how you doing, by the way?
Sure. Oh, I'm doing great. I get excited to be able to talk about what we do as we all do. But like I said, Monitor is so iconic, and it's been such a symbol for 160 plus years that you can't not get excited when you talk about what it was, its legacy, and exciting things we're doing today. I think Monitor is just as relevant today as it was back in the Civil War in 1862.
I would love to, if we can. I think it's a good segue to learn a little bit more about you and your background. Like, I know you are part of your came from the South Pacific culture, New Zealand, the Maori,
Mhm.
and tell us more about that influence you in terms of coming into this profession that you're in, which is totally amazing, by the way. Every time I have an interview with you guys, I leave being extremely envious. So tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, yeah, by all means. And I should say, first and foremost, that I am very privileged to work for the Sanctuaries in NOAA. Like, this was not a career path I had thought about at age 12. So, no, I was going to be a chef, and then I was going to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
My family is from Aotearoa, which is the Maori word for over New Zealand.
Yeah.
And that has always shaped me in terms of that indigenous aspect. But, I grew up a little bit in California, and then I was really raised in Maui in Hawaii.
Okay.
So learning about
There
the
are
whole
worse places to be raised, by the
right.
way, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I'll say that it's very special.
Okay.
But you learn about Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian way they treat the land and the ocean and family and these things has really helped shape me growing up. And I was trying to find my way in college. I went to University of Hawaii at Manoa, tried to find my way, and I was a psychology major. Realized at the end that was not for me. I made a tremendous mistake for myself. I went to chef school for a little bit, and then I wanted to go back to graduate school and started doing Hawaiian archaeology. And took classes in that. I was just fascinated by the Hawaiian heiau, the temple, the history, the villages, how things were built. And I always loved scuba diving because it's quite easy to dive in Hawaii. Again, it's paradise. And my professor at University of Hawaii said, "Well, hey, I know you love to scuba dive and you've been interested in these field schools. We have an underwater archaeology program we just started." And of course, my response was, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, a few years ago, they found the Titanic and things of that nature, and the documentation, the search for shipwrecks, and talking about that history. That's underwater archaeology." I thought, well, yeah, that sounds great. I want to do that. So it turns out I was very lucky that the guy who started that program had just retired from East Carolina University, which is one of our nation's premier schools for this. He had just retired, went to Hawaii, started that program, as well as another future coworker who was my first professor, Hans von Tilburg, who was out in the Hawaiian Islands. And they introduced me to the field. And that's how I got to East Carolina, and I introduced to the Monitor and sort of went from there. But it's a bit of a crooked path. But I will say that after going through that, maybe getting a bit of hindsight and being a bit older, you start realizing that it's not just about the shipwreck, right? That's exciting, but there's so much more to it. And that history is sometimes the tip of the iceberg, and the real significance is what happens next. And that's where I find excitement. But yeah, I can't say enough that I've been quite lucky, and hope to share it with more people. You had mentioned at the start, we had the Sanctuaries, Office and Engineering Sanctuaries 50th anniversary birthdays,
Right.
Which was from 1972. Well, the Monitor was the very first sanctuary, which we
Right.
like to think is the jewel of the crown, as I will say to no end to anybody who will listen. But it's the first one.
Right.
And that was in 1975. So what we have coming up in 2023 is the 50th anniversary of Monitor's discovery.
Okay.
Took them a little bit, as I said, to kind of figure out what they're looking at. So the 2024 is the anniversary of them saying, hey, it is the Monitor. And 2025 is that 50th anniversary of our designation as the nation's first sanctuary. So for me, it's the ramp up to that, and sharing and celebrating the history, not just Monitor's incredible historic legacy, again, the ship that saved the Union, but let's talk about that cutting edge science that we're doing now at Monitor and how that can inspire the next generation. And that's what I'm really passionate about now is, again, what next? It can't be a one-off, right? When we do any of these things, that we have to think about this connective tissues. Like, how does it benefit our communities, right? What does that mean? Why should a community in Hampton Roads, where I am, or down in North Carolina where the shipwreck is, why should they care about Monitor? And it's some of these what happens next threads, I think, is what really makes a difference.